The weekly Industry Angel podcast hears from business leaders and entrepreneurs who share their stories and that all-important light bulb moment. This can inspire us all and maybe scratch that itch and kickstart that idea that keeps you awake at night. Welcome to episode 56 of the Industry Angel. Happy summer, you beautiful people. Lying there on your sun lounger, out next to the pool, sol in hand, little bit lime on the top because you're super cool, shades on, sitting sangria maybe, little bit tapas. Think of me sitting here looking out of the window at the UK rain, okay? It's not good. But apparently next month, it's going to be tarmac splitting, melting even weather. Like we'll never hear that, do we? We're always going to have a heat wave. We're always going to have white Christmases. These weathermen need a slap, I think. So anyway, who cares? We're on the Industry Angel. Let's hear from a fantastic guest. Speaking of guests, thanks for all the suggestions. Been amazing going through them all. I'm trying to filter them through because we need guests that are fit for purpose for you. I don't want to replicate topics sometimes. I like to keep things a bit different. So thanks to the likes of Russell Mills, passing me guest suggestions. Good man. I've also heard from new listener Andrew Wood, who enjoyed Robin Crane from episode 54. Danusia Melina Durbin got in touch because she enjoys the mix of guests, but she also pointed out that another top podcast guests, only 3.7% of them are women. So we smash that out of the water, don't we, that stat. We love to bring you great guests. And I'm hoping to get Danusia on the show, who sent me that actually. A shout out to the team at MICC, where I delivered a day's coaching last week. Top guys. And remember, you can check out what I do at far-north.com. That's my company that kindly sponsor the show. Let me do the podcast. I've heard the boss is great. So yeah, he lets us bring you some fantastic guests. Long-time listener Anthony Armstrong dropped me an email with a criticism. We don't do enough episodes. Cheers, Anthony. Actually, I have been really busy. I've been a guest on some other people's podcasts. I've been doing magazine interviews, so I've been busy, but don't worry, my friend. We've got some in the can. We'll keep them going. Got some great guests lined up. So thanks for the email. I know you love the show. Cheers, Anthony. Right, let's get on to today's guest. Today we have world-renowned hypnotist and master of interpersonal communication, Marshall Sylver. Welcome to the Industry Angel, Marshall.
Thank you so much, Ian. So glad to be here.
Now, that is an intro I never thought I'd say. You know, I've got here, you're a leading expert in subconscious reprogramming and the master of persuasion and influence. That sounds very Vegas, my friend. Is that where you are at the moment?
Well, that is where I am. And not only is it very Vegas, it's very useful. You know, I think that most people don't realize that communication equals wealth. And the better that we communicate both with ourselves and with the outside world, the more effective and prosperous our life is.
I agree. Well, I'll tell you what it is, Marshall. Before we get into that, I mean, you're in Vegas, so we all know the rules about Vegas. I don't want to know anything about that. But I'd love to know where this all started. So, you know, you're interested in the mind and the psyche and you're going around the country giving seminars. But let's wind it right back, Marshall. How did this all start?
I was born and raised into a very poor family in a little section of the States, a state called Michigan. And it was tough. I have 9 siblings. There's 10 kids in my family. My mother raised us basically on her own due to some tragic events with the kids' fathers. And this woman worked 3 jobs just to provide for us. And even though she was working 3 jobs, we had no running water. We had no electricity. We had no food. Often we had little, and often we were homeless, actually. And it was just a very challenging upbringing. And I recalled early on watching my mother shed tears because there wasn't enough money to provide for her family. And I swore as a child, whatever it would take to make sure I never saw my mother do that again, I would do whatever I needed to do. My second home with my family was a converted chicken coop. I was 7 years old. The local community knew that we were going to freeze to death if we didn't have a place to stay. So they converted and renovated a chicken coop. And we lived in the chicken coop for 4 years. And to me, it was heaven. The chicken coop had running water. It had electricity. And other than clucking when I get happy from time to time, no adverse side effects.
So you've kind of been in the face of adversity and necessities pushed you on and kicked you on to make some money.
Well, right now this conversation is occurring. I just returned from an amazing week at Sir Richard Branson's private home, Necker Island. We were there celebrating with Sir Richard Branson all week long. Phenomenal experience. I've been down there. That was our 9th trip. And the first half of the trip, we were sharing the island with some people. And the last half of the trip, the last 3.5 days, I did an exclusive rental for my wife and my children so that we could just have the island to ourselves and have some fun. And it was beautiful. I'm back now in my home in Las Vegas. It's 17,000 square feet. And I fly all over the world in private jets, changing the quality of business owners' lives by helping them, number one, change the programs of their own mind and becoming more responsible for their results. And then number two, teaching them, as you mentioned in the intro, skills of irresistible influence and how they can take their online copy, their sales letters, their emails, their platform skills to the next level and start making a whole lot more money.
So would you say that you were a sales guy, Marshall? Wait,
Absolutely.
What are you?
Ultimately, everything is hypnosis. And, whether somebody calls the process closing a sale or whether they call the process hypnotizing somebody to believe it was their idea to buy the product, it doesn't really matter. The end result is that when we believe in what we are selling, we have a moral and ethical obligation to sell it. And with that in mind, I use the most powerful skills of irresistible influence ever created to sell people, not just, what normal salespeople would sell, whether it's real estate or investment opportunities or products and services. I sell people on getting rid of lifetime setbacks, anxieties, depression, bad habits, and addictions, in addition to all of the business side of the work that we do.
So would you say that the people who you train or coach or go on your programs are a mix across the board? That they might have they might be a business owner, but then they might be working for corporate and they might just want to break out, or they might have an issue with their health or an anxiety issue. Just anything,
all of the above. The one thing I will say is that I'm pricey. I'm expensive. And so I don't generally do non-smoking or fat loss or a whole lot of one-on-one sessions. I do make exceptions. There are times when I've met people that regardless of whether they had the money or not, they touched my heart and I said, I want to help this person. Generally speaking, though, my clients are mid-sized businesses doing $500,000 a year or more, or people that are, like you said, in corporate world that say, I want to break out. I've been an employee for so long. I'm afraid I don't know what I need to do. And those are the people that I create the most tremendous results with. And, all the way up to companies that are doing $100 million, $150, $200 million a year.
So is it one-on-one, Marshall?
The majority of my work these days is one-to-many. So whether, as an example, a seminar company might hire me to come in and take a look at their scripts and say, how can we be more effective in selling from the platform, and then tweak their scripts and then take and show their salespeople how to utilize the newfound skills of influence. Or the majority of my work is public seminars these days. I'll fly into a city. I will do a 2 or a 3-day event. The local business community will attend, and I will teach them en masse. Here are the programs in your own mind you need to shift. Here are the skills of influence you need to learn. Here is the way to turn that hunger back up to like it was when you first became an entrepreneur, and it wasn't a matter of would you succeed, you knew you had to succeed, and get you fired up again. So I'm not really a motivational speaker. I'm not a Tony Robbins or any number of speakers that get people excited. I am a programmer. That is what I do from the ground up. I don't just teach people. I program them to become the people they need to be to attain the success they desire.
So thinking about that program, and you mentioned something that triggered something off in my mind was script. So I did something similar last week with a software company. And when I heard the guys talk, and I was sort of cringing and scribbling away and showing them signs like, don't say that, So things like, I don't know, to be honest, start a sentence that's to be honest, or I'm being honest here. Well, does that mean that you weren't being honest in the last 5 minutes of our discussion?
Why start being honest now?
Yeah.
We hardly know each other.
Or saying seriously, So you weren't being serious
Yes.
before then?
And those prefaces that people use, such as to be honest or seriously or to be frank, those prefaces, those softeners are used when people are insecure and they don't want to have an opinion, because having an opinion, whatever level we have an opinion, is the level at which we can be attacked. And so that's where I start, is I start with the individual's personal confidence levels. And when you raise their personal confidence levels, what happens is everything changes. So my job, once again, is to get into their own heads first, change those programs, let them know that in the salesperson's point of view, they're doing the other person a favor by selling them. They're not having a favor done to them if the person buys. They're doing the other person a favor by giving them the opportunity to become involved in their product, service, or offering. And when you start with that in mind, it's not nearly as desperate.
So we're talking win-win.
We're even talking when I'm okay if I don't win right now, I'll win in the long run. Sometimes what the circumstance needs to be, and especially these days, if you have something that is phenomenal, if you have a product that changes lives, and that the moment somebody experiences that life change, they will want it forever, then by all means, that's one of the best models to sell right now, is if I can go and do a preview event, as an example, which is the base model of the majority of our public events, and teach people for 2 or 3 hours, totally free, not ask for anything. Yet in those 2 or 3 hours, give them enough knowledge and transformation that they say, my gosh, if this is what he gave me for free, what would he give me if I threw him a couple quid? What if I just threw some money at him and said, okay, show me how to multiply this? That's what most people don't do, because most, in due respect, most people sell crap.
So you're all about giving the good stuff, like adding some value, giving the value out there, and then they'll come
without
back.
a doubt. Again, everything that somebody claims they can do for you is demonstrable. So if they cannot demonstrate it, they say, hey, I can double your profits, and you ask, okay, show me one person that I can call or talk to that you've doubled their profits. If they say, it's not happening. I had a guy come to me. He wanted me to invest in a Vegas show, actually. And, I've made millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars net in the entertainment business in Vegas. And he said, look, I've got this concept for this idea. I want you to be the investor. Here's what your return will be. And what do you think? And I said, you know what? I don't think I want to invest. I believe in you. I believe this concept could work. How about I just loan you the money? And he looked at me after telling me it was a guaranteed win. He looked at me. He said, well, I can't borrow the money. What if it doesn't work out? How am I going to pay you back? And I said, when it's your money, it's a different story. And so, for me, that's the whole thing, that every single product, I can line up countless people that I have made multi-millionaires in every single vertical or market you could imagine. And I can show you those people. And sooner or later, one of your listeners would say, okay, I identify with that person. I'm a stockbroker. You help those stockbrokers not only become millionaires as traders, but also open up their own firms. You've helped these real estate investors and real estate companies multiply their businesses 5 and 10 times over. You've helped these retailers and these information marketers. I could bring any number of people and say, look, here's somebody I helped go from $0 to $50 million inside of 5 years. And you would have to say, okay, you could do it for me.
I'm trying to give some value to our listeners, Marshall. So, we talked about giving some value away to clients, prospective clients. So say, for instance, you've wrote a proposal, and I'm always nervous of this myself, actually, write a proposal, giving all the crown jewels away for free. And how can we ensure that we convert that proposal into a sale?
Well, you just said something.
Any tips?
You give all the crown jewels away for free. If I was consulting for a business and someone made that comment to me, my response would be, we need to help you find more jewels then. We need to be sure that you could give away some amazing content or practices, yet it wouldn't be all of your content or practices. And I think that's the biggest challenge a lot of businesses have, is they're kind of one-trick ponies. They don't have enough content. People come to me and say, hey, I want to really explode my company. And my response is, okay, you have 3 products that you sell. The people love your products. If they buy, your smallest product here, guaranteed the majority of them are going to buy the other 2 as well. Your challenge is, once you've sold them those 3 things, you have nothing else to sell them. So you have one of two options. Either you create more product, which certainly in the information side of things is a challenge, because that's the hardest part of our business, is creating quality product and content. Or you go the affiliate route and you say, okay, who could I partner with that I would feel good about partnering with, that their content and what they teach people, their values are similar to the ones that we hold, so that we can be sure we're putting our customers in a good place. And then without having to reinvent the wheel or create any more content or manage any more fulfillment or admin, I can increase my net profits without having to do any extra work. And that's one of the things, and I've been retired for the last 6 years, and it was one of the things that was important to me is that if I came out of retirement, that I would come out in a big way with a big brand and do some things that would be legacy worthy. And that's part of the reason that I went to Necker for the past week, was coming out of retirement. I'd been to Necker 8 other times prior to that. And on this trip, I wanted to go and chat with Branson about the new brand and about what we were doing and just get some feedback from him, because I'd already spent millions of dollars to be in his presence and to have him mentor me. And it had all come back to me many times over.
No, that's a nice story. Thinking about that return, Marshall, how do we get across that argument when people are asking for an ROI up front, and it's hard to try and get that point across? Is it a sort of, do you show them examples of who's received that ROI before?
Certainly
then?
Case studies work. The other piece, on the ROI is asking them the question, so if not me now, who when? I realize that ROI is important to you. And then oftentimes you can build in, depending on what it is that you're selling, you can build in those risk reversal and risk elimination strategies that cause a person to say, okay, I give you 10 grand. You work with me until I decide I've made my 10 grand back, and or, you give me my money back. And so as a consultant, that's one way to solve that challenge, is you say, all right, here's your business. Here's what you say you want to do. As your consultant, I know how to get you there, and I will get you there without billing you another dime. The thing is twofold. Number one, my promise is to at least return the money you invested, or whatever multiple you agree on, double your return on investment, and or I'll give you your money back. The thing is, though, when I accomplish what I say I'm going to accomplish for you, at that point, it converts into a monthly contract. That would be how I would structure that deal.
And would you think they would be nervous about doing that? Would they rather than just pay up front? Or would they go for it?
Again, if the client has any hesitation, the only reason a person ever says no is they fear a loss. They fear what they give you will be less than what they get back. And so our job as a person of influence is to eliminate that fear of loss in any way we can, whether it's valuizing the initial offer. If I say, look, it's 10 grand, but here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you $200,000 worth of value, verifiable value. Or if it is risk reversal, saying there's no risk, put 10 grand into an escrow account, put 10 grand up front, whatever it is, I'll put it down in writing that I will return you your $10,000 investment in real dollars, not just theory, that we'll be able to go back to your bank account and say, okay, because of this directive, because of this action I had you take, because of this plan we implemented, you made $30,000 back. And if you don't do that, then I will keep working with you until we do. Now, that didn't say I will give you your money back after 30 days, because part of the challenge is, as an information marketer, as a business consultant, one of our challenges is not that we don't give sound advice and direction. The challenge is, the biggest challenge for the people that we coach, mentor, and consult for is they don't do what we tell them to do.
Yeah, it's dead true.
And so, in my own business, and I have a very simple agreement with people. If I give you a directive, and we both agree it's a sound directive, meaning I didn't tell you, go plant 3 fig trees in your backyard and your business will blossom. I told you, here's where we find new leads. Here's how we convert them. Here's how we upsell. Here's how we make them evangelical affiliates for us. If I tell you to do that, and those are the steps, and you say, that makes sense to me. Yes, I'm going to do that. And then our next call, I say, okay, what did you do? Well, I'm getting around to it, but I'd like some more strategy. My response is going to be, I already gave you strategy. You agreed that it was sound. You need to do it. Now, if you call me up a third time and you haven't done it, we're done. I've completed my fulfillment. You need to follow through on what I've told you to do. Otherwise, there's no way for me to help you. And I think that, again, it comes back to the softener of somebody saying, it's my opinion, or I'm sincerely, or to tell you the truth. Those are all signs of an internal dialogue the person is having that's insecure and afraid and desperate, rather than saying, look, I'd love to have your business. I don't need your business. In fact, in the scope of things, your business won't make a major distinction in my life. Yet my consulting and my direction will make a total difference in yours. So let's come from the perspective of letting me be the professional you've been praying that I am and that you want me to be right now. Let me do what I do so that we can begin this amazing long-term, both professional and personal relationship. And you can look back on this time and say, that was a turning point for me.
That's a massive thing for me as well, Marshall. And I've wrote that down because it may be something that you kind of get across to some of my clients that, if I'm going to say something and we both agree, you've just got to go and action it. And I love that. I think in the UK, we've got a bit of a big fear of buying, especially in my region. We tend to drill right down and do all the research before we say yes. And so is that some of the work that you do, Marshall, with your clients, is to maybe try to not convince, or is that the word?
It's the opposite. It's the opposite.
I want to be ethical.
That's a phenomenal question. And again, when I go chat with Sir Richard, when I go visit him at Necker Island, obviously there's a fair mix of Yanks and Brits over there. And it's interesting to me just to watch all the distinction between the groups. The Yanks, the Americans tend to be quite a bit more brash. They tend to be much less subtle. They tend to be very open-minded, though, in doing things differently and kind of being innovative. And my experience has been that most of my friends from the UK and the new friends that I make when I'm over there, the first words out of their mouth will often be, is hypnosis real? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm here at Necker Island. I spent as much as you spent to get here. And you're asking me, is it real? It must be real. Look, I met my wife. I hypnotized her to ask me out on a date. I hypnotized her to marry me. I hypnotized her to give birth to our 3 babies at home in the bathtub with no drugs, no doctors, no pain. You know that story. Yet you ask me, is it real? Just strange to me. So the answer is you have to communicate with someone else in a language that they understand. So yes, if I know that I'm dealing with somebody, it doesn't even have to be a culture or a country. If I know I'm dealing with an individual that is logically oriented, while all buying decisions are based first on emotion and then backed up with logic, I also know that the thing that I have to understand is what is their software. In other words, if I have an iPhone and I attempt to and I go get an Android, although it is similar, it is not identical, if that makes any sense. So some of the commands will be unique, and I'll go, okay, I know where to find it on my iPhone. Where is it on the Android? And so the same thing is true with human beings, is we've got to know what is their operating system. Once I know what their operating system is, then I can program it and change it.
I'm talking about, I use the word convince, but I know we're not going to go there, but you're having a conversation. What's just flew into my mind is I went for an interview when I was a boy, okay? And the boss was, he had a degree in psychology, even though that wasn't the role I was going for. Nothing to do with it at all. And he said to me when I got the job, he said, you did something in that interview that got you the job, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want you to not know about it, so you do it again. And I was just totally thrown by that, and I still don't know what it was. So is this something that you're super trained on, Marshall, in terms of what people say, how the body language is, and then you fine-tune yourself to that software and those commands?
Yeah, that's called cold reading. So what he was talking about, whether he identified it as such or not, is a cold read. Every single thought we think has a physical response in the body. It is impossible for us to think a thought and not have our body telegraph that. That's why, once again, I don't have to convince people of something. The reason I don't have to convince people of something is, number one, that kind of makes me feel like I'm desperate. I need to convince you to want a better life. No, you need to notice how you could have a better life. I'd like to help you do that. Yet, once again, it's no skin off my back if you do or don't. It is definitely not in your best interest to pass on this thing or not realize what a power it is. At the same time, I'm not going to beg you to take something I know will change your life forever. On the other hand, I will give you the definition of influence that I've created and is the basis of everything that we teach. Influence, and I call it irresistible influence, is not getting someone else to say yes. Irresistible influence is getting someone else to ask you for what you're selling, and more importantly, have them believe it was their idea. Well, you didn't sell me anything. Clearly, this is a good thing, and I want this, and you don't have to sell me on it. I want it. It's mine. I'm making the decision. That's influence. So when I can, work with somebody who is, as an example, maybe they have a fear of public speaking or getting on platforms, and by the time I'm done having my programming session with them, they look at me and they say, you know what? I don't really know why I was so concerned about getting on stage. It's not really that big a deal. I just need to get out there and do my thing. I mean, my God, the audience wants to like me. Nobody sits in the audience and goes to a seminar or a lecture and says, gosh, I hope this guy sucks. Everybody wants to like me. Maybe it's time for me to just get out of my head and get into my life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people can be quite desperate. When they're desperate to sell, it comes across, and it just makes it then harder to sell. I think I guess it's a bit like winning mentality, for a football or soccer here. When you see teams get into that winning mentality, they're winning every week. And so when you're selling every week, I feel like it's a bit of an easier sell. Would you agree?
No. Again, that's why I start with the individual. And whether it's a corporate culture, whether it's a business owner that has been desperate their whole lives, and they put that desperate attitude into their people, or whether it's an individual salesperson who has his own rent or mortgage to pay, and he goes into the sale, the first thing that has to be is, number one, don't sell crap products. Only sell things you believe in. Number two, if you believe in something, you have a moral and ethical obligation to sell it. Number three, if you are influencing somebody and they are not saying yes, do not feel bad for yourself. Feel bad for them, and have that be the spirit that says, you know what? Clearly, I have failed you. I have no idea how I did, and I'm walking out of here heartbroken for you. Not for me. My gosh, my life doesn't change a bit. This contract isn't big enough for me to even notice it in my bank account. Yet the thing that I realize is I know I did careful research on you and your organization, and I know you need this. So please tell me, what is it that I would have said to you? What is it I would have shown you? What could you have heard that would have made you say, yes, sign me up today? And then shut your mouth and listen to them, because they'll tell you what it was that they need to hear, feel, or see to have them say yes. And then once they've given you that information, then you reframe, you put your offer in the frame that they've handed you and make it look like what they're buying. That is influence.
Reframing's really powerful, isn't it? And I think sometimes when people say no, it's not just a not now. And I get that you can, there is a chance maybe 6 months or a year down the line if you just keep that up. But I feel sometimes when people say no, they don't actually know the full value because you just haven't had the chance to articulate and get it across. So reframing things out in their words is really powerful.
Absolutely. And again, when they're saying no, what are they saying no to? That is the question you've got to ask. Are they saying no to the offer? I mean, if I offered you a brand new Rolls-Royce Phantom for £4,000, would you buy it?
Well, what color is yours? Silver?
Mine is silver, yes. Someone gave me a black one. I don't have any more space in my garage. My gosh, I'm parking my car. I've got a 10-car garage, and I'm parking cars on the street so I don't have enough space. So
come and park that bad boy outside my house, mate.
So if someone said no, I wouldn't buy the Rolls-Royce Phantom that's worth I guess what, £250,000. I wouldn't buy it for £4,000. My response would be, okay, what would be the reason? Well, I don't really want a Rolls Royce. My response would be, buy it and then sell it. It's worth £250,000. Sell it already. Or maybe they'll say, I don't actually have the money. Oh my gosh, seriously? Don't you think that you could find a partner to partner up on that deal so that you could both make a massive profit? The only time a person says no is when they fear a loss. So, what I'm doing, Ian, and I know we're about ready to wrap the podcast up and the conversation up. I just wanted to let you know the thing that brought me out of retirement was I realized that it's not enough to program people, that I have to help people reach a state of certainty. And so we are doing two things. Number one, I'm bringing some technology out that has never been exposed ever in the history of neurolinguistics, of hypnosis, of subconscious reprogramming. We are launching in September a technology called Certainty. And what it does is it causes people to lose that fear of loss, lose the doubt, both when they are influencing people to cause the person that they're influencing to have no doubt. Also, though, when they go to influence or when they go to accomplish the things of their life, to have absolute and complete certainty. That's the first thing, is that I want to help get certainty into people's lives so they can live a certain life, so they can have certain wealth, so they can have a certain marriage and certain relationships. And then the second thing is I've made a lot of money. Thank you, God. I've made a lot of money, and I've lived a life that most people couldn't even imagine living. And for that, I'm grateful. And so if there's anybody that is listening right now, a couple things I wanted to put out to them. Number one, come check me out on Facebook at Marshall Sylver, MarshallSylver. They could go to the website sylver.com and check out some more information on me there. Also, though, one last website that they should check out, because I've made so much money. We've never had an affiliate program tied to what we do. And when I came back out of retirement, one of the things that I gave my staff, I said, look, I want to share the wealth. I want to help people like you, who have phenomenal audiences and great shows and great energy, who, might have a bit of things to sell, yet not enough to really be the Amazon of the world or be the Apple of the world or, be a Google of the world with numerous products to sell, that we are giving away up to 50% of what we sell as affiliate commissions to the people that are our referring partners. And they can sign up to receive more information on certainty at certaintyinc.com. That's certaintyinc, certaintyincorporated.com. If they go to certaintyinc, they can give their name, give their email address. And as we roll certainty out here in about a month and a half, we will forward them the information on both the programs, the educational programs that we have, as well as this vastly lucrative affiliate campaign that we're also sending.
If I've read that right, so we were talking about helping people sell. You're actually helping people buy as well?
Both. Yeah,
in their lives?
Both, because, and this is a very important psychology to understand, particularly as you said about the culture of where you are now. Those that are afraid to buy are always afraid to sell. If I have a hang up and I say, you're just trying to sell me something, when I go to influence, my brain is saying, I'm just trying to sell them something. And so when I see any bit of resistance, because that's how I am, I see what I'm looking for, and I believe there's no way they're going to buy. I wouldn't buy if I were them.
Okay. Well, I know you mentioned about heading off, but I've got to ask you some. I've got two things here that I want to ask you. Okay. You hypnotized 5,000 people. What was that about?
We go over to Asia from time to time, and they pay big bucks over there. And the interesting thing about China right now is Taiwan, China, had been bringing me over there for, about 25 years. And mainland China, it wasn't until about the last 10 years that they started bringing motivational speakers and trainers and people of influence over. And on our last trip over, they put me in front of 5,000 people. Through an interpreter, I hypnotized all 5,000 of them in over the course of 2 days in many different ways, and massively changed their lives.
You're a wild man.
I do have fun.
And fire eating as well.
One of the metaphors that I use is that people don't necessarily know what it is they can do until they do it. So rather than spending a whole lot of time trying to convince them to do something, what I do is I teach them how to do the thing without convincing them to do it, and then just give them the opportunity to do it. So rather than stepping back one step and telling you the benefits of being rich, I just show you how to be rich and then let you decide to do it and experience the benefits. So fire eating is one of the metaphors that we use, that it's something from the outside that looks extremely difficult. Yet when you break down the process, there's not much to it other than overcoming that fear.
Brilliant. I like it. It's a nice metaphor. Well, Marshall, I've really enjoyed your time. I'm glad our friend Richard could help you out as well. That sounds great. So best of luck with certainty.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Great chatting with you. And Ian, I look forward to being on your show again sometime soon. This has been a lot of fun, and you're a great energy and a great spirit. I look forward to meeting you in person as our paths cross, which I'm sure they will. I'm certain they will.
I'll see you in NECA next year, my friend.
Sounds great. Take care, Ian. Cheers, mate.
Well, there you go. That was Marshall Sylver. I know Marshall's been interviewed by David Letterman, Howard Stern, Louis Theroux, and now Industry Angel. So there you go. What a character, eh? Let me know how you found that. Was there anything particular that stood out for you? Things like, if you're afraid to buy, therefore you're afraid to sell. Is that you? Let me know. host@industryangel.com. So I'm off now for a spin in my new Rolls-Royce Phantom. The best £4,000 I ever spent. I'm Ian Farah. This is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.